19 upending our lives. We've been having an ongoing discussion here at BNN Bloomberg in the last several weeks about the future of things. So let's talk about the future of cities and our urban space. Is there an opportunity here to better use our urban spaces to our advantage? Jennifer Keesmaat, CEO of the Keesmaat Group, she's also Toronto's former chief city planner, joins us now. And let's start there. I mean, this is a moment where I know the discussions are being had to reflect on how we've used urban space in the past and how we can use it better coming out the other side of this.
Well, I think what we should expect to continue to see is accelerated adaptations of both land and space in cities. So when I talk about land, I mean the way we're planning land. We've identified over the course of COVID-19 the importance of living in our neighborhoods. A lot of people have not had a long commute. And one of the things we've seen across the globe as a result of that is a focus on the 15-minute city. Now, to get the 15-minute city, we have to change how we're using land. We need to mix up uses. We need to add density. That also means we need to use streets in a different way. In the old model, streets were primarily for cars. In the new model, cycling becomes really important. Walking becomes really important as we shift away from cities that are built around the idea of the long commute. You know, you'll work downtown, you'll live out in the suburbs or out in the country. You might get on the GO train, you might get on some other form of transit and commute for 45 minutes. That's an old idea. That idea has gone by the wayside, and we've seen a really big shift in the way we're living our everyday lives, both as a result of the pandemic, but also as a result of the digital transformation that we've been going through. So what that means is we need to use both land and space in a different way.
How concerned have you been with the trend that we've seen in real estate? I know it's only about a couple months of this phenomenon, but we definitely seen reflected in the Toronto real estate numbers weakness in downtown Toronto condos, and particularly a strength in those suburbs, in those single-family homes. It seems that this pandemic had reversed that trend that urban planners have been trying to work towards, and people fled the core. I mean, is this going to be damaging to this longer-term vision of how we should be living and working and playing?
Well, not at all. You know, it's not surprising to me that there's less interest in the downtown core, because all the things that make living downtown spectacular are currently shut down, in lockdown. We're not going to Raptors games. We're not going to Blue Jays games. We're not going out to restaurants. People are not walking to work. One of the great appeals of living in the downtown was the opportunity not to own a car. And we know that pre-pandemic, we had actually achieved a fantastic marker in the city of Toronto, because 75% of the people who live downtown, and just to give you a sense, it's about half the population of the entire province of Saskatchewan lives in downtown Toronto. So this is not a small thing. 17 square kilometers, 75% of the residents who live downtown either walked or cycled or took transit to work. So that quality of life that comes with having things in close proximity isn't something that will go away once we are vaccinated, once we've moved into our new normal. The challenge is right now, in the middle of a lockdown, the things that actually make living in an urban environment really sing and really fantastic, including being able to network with your colleagues, grab a drink after lunch, all of that is off the table. But we need to differentiate between the things that are affecting us right now during lockdown and the way things will return to. And look, we are social creatures. We know this, and we know that when we make cities better for human interaction and connectivity, that people are interested in that. They're seeking that. That's not something that has changed because of the pandemic, although, yes, it's having repercussions in this moment of lockdown.
When I think about Toronto and what it was like before the pandemic, driving in the city was a nightmare. I'm born and raised in Toronto. I'm one of those people who lives out in the burbs, full disclosure. But driving was a nightmare. I gave it up years ago. Are we concerned, though, that we might have set back the movement to getting people on transit because of the pandemic? I'm one of those GO train people. In normal times, if you sneezed on the GO train, talk about looks of hate. I can't even imagine what that's going to be like on the other side of the pandemic in terms of people not wanting to be close to other people.
Look, it would be naive not to think that we are going to have a significant challenge in rebuilding public confidence in public transit. let's face it, that is a challenge that we're going to have to face as cities. There's a risk that if we don't do that, that people run out and buy cars and say, forget it. I just don't feel safe. So we need to rebuild that confidence. We also know that contagion on public transit has not been a significant issue in any city in the world, including cities in Asia where you've got people that use transit all the time, every day. That we know there are things that we can do to ensure that public transit is safe, and we're going to have to rebuild that public confidence. There's no doubt about it. And it's a risk to our cities if we do not rebuild that public confidence. But we also know that this is a critical moment for rethinking our streets. And we've been doing that. People have been getting out on bikes. You know, my neighbors who used to think of me as some kind of radical because I rode my bike to work are now going, hey, this is pretty cool. I can get on my bike. I can safely ride around the city and get where I need to go on my bike. So as much as we're going through a moment where we are going to have to rebuild confidence in public transit, there's a risk if we go back to jamming up our streets full of cars, precisely because so many people have realized that cycling is a great way to get around and that cycling offers a really high quality of life. And we also know that people own bikes and they know how to bike, which is sort of the first barrier. So I think there's a few risks there that you've kind of highlighted that we are going to need strong public policy and strong leadership to ensure that we're really clear about the direction we want to go in. And look, this is about green cities. It's about livable cities. It's about making sure our cities are sustainable. And that has always taken public policy to drive those outcomes.
Jennifer, it's always great talking these issues with you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Greg.
Jennifer Keesmaat, CEO of the Keesmaat Group, also Toronto's former chief city planner.